Before continuing to the next step, let's pray for the Matthew Perry's soul, the star of the Friends TV series who died on the age of 54 today. He was known for playing the sarcastic but lovable Chandler Bing character in the Friends TV series. May rest in peace. So let's continue. In next step, we want to implement the home page. So let's do it. But because I want to use an image, let's go to the public and here let's create a new folder named images. And inside of these images, I want to copy an image. You can simply download it from my GitHub repo. And this is it. So I copied this me.jpg and this is an image. You can download it from the GitHub repo and you can find the link of the GitHub repo in the video description. So let's continue. We want to use this image in the home page. So let's open the SRC and go to the pages and public and home page. Well, this is it. And let me talk about the home page. Inside of this home page, we don't have any special functionalities and we just need to implement a beautiful UI. So I simply copy paste the codes of the Tailwind CSS classes and the structure here from the GitHub repo and talk about them. And you can copy and paste them from my GitHub repo here. And this is not important because here we don't have any special functionality. So let me copy them here. Well, this is it. So let's first open the terminal and see our project. Clear npm run dev to see it first and then we talk about it. And this is it. So this is the result of the codes that we copied from the GitHub repo. And you can see that it is just a simple, beautiful structure that I created using Tailwind CSS classes. And this is it. Here on the right side, I have my image. And on the left side, I have some different elements that I talk about them now. So let's go back to our codes and let's minimize the terminal. And this is it. So we created this page template one. Let's have a quick overview of it. So if I go to the index.css, you can see that I have page template one here, which is these classes. So we are using these classes in our project, and you can see that it is reusable. So we are using this .page template one here. Then we have some divisions, and we are using some Tailwind CSS classes. That is not important, and our focus is just on the functionality of authentication and authorization. So this is the home page, and I think it's okay. We don't want to have some time on it. So we just have a division with class name of page template. Then let's minimize this division. Inside of that, I have another division with two sections. This is for the left side and the next one is for the right side. And in the right side, I have this image, which the SRC is images/me.jpg that I copied into this folder. That's it. So let's close the home page and close the index.css and close everything and go to the next step. In next step, I want to implement the register page, then the login page. But for my register and my login page, I want to have some input component. So let's create a reusable component for the input and use it. So let's go to the SRC, then go to the components. And inside of components, I have the dashboard, the general, and the layout. So let's close them. So inside of the general, let's create a new file. So the name would be InputFiled.tsx, and inside of that, I want to import something from the React Bookform package, which is the control and also the controller. So after this, let's create an interface with name of iProps, and you know that any interface is an object, and for the iProps, we are using the control, which is a type of control of any and any. So this is a generic type from the React Bookform, and after this control, let's have a label, which is the type of a string, and also it's optional, so we can pass label to it. And also let's have an input name with type of a string, and also let's have an input type with type of a string, and it is optional. And also let's have an error with type of a string. This is it. So after this iProps, we want to have our components. So I simply use RAFCE to create it, and let's cut this import React because we don't need it. And also let's minimize this iProps because I don't need it anymore. Then here we can use different props. So what do we need here? The first thing is the control, and after that we need to have the label, and then we need to have the input name and also the input type with the default value of text, and also we need error. So let's minimize the Explorer. Now you can see that I'm exactly using this props, which is coming from this interface, and this is the shape of it. So let's use the format document and continue. So let's minimize this, and then I want to have a helper function, so let's create the const of render top row, which equals an arrow function, and we check that if the error exists, we simply return a new span with class names of textred of 600 and also font of semibold, and inside of this span, we simply return this error. Else, if we have the label, we can simply return a label tag with a class name of font of semibold, and also inside of this label we return the label prop. Else, if we don't have the error and we don't have the label, we can simply return null. This is it. So let's format the document. So this is the render top show helper function. Let's minimize it and go to the next line. And I want to create another variable for the class names of this input field. So let's create it. I say const of dynamic class name equals to, we check that if the error exists, we can simply return a string with border red of 500 and also rounded up LG. Else, if the error is false, we can simply return a string with the border of this color, and that's it. Now we can use it. So let's delete this input field. And here let's have some class names like padding x of 4 and also margin y of 2 and width of 75%. And this is the division. So inside of this division, the first thing is we need to render the top row. So let's use the render top row function and let's quickly format it. This is good. So after this render, I want to have a controller tag, which is coming from, let me show you again here, from React 4. And here we can have some different props for it. So let's use it. The first thing is the name. So for the name, we can receive it from the prop. So I simply use the input name that I'm receiving from the props. And also we need a control to control this controller tag. And this control is here coming from the props. And after that, we can have a render. So because we want to render another tag here, so this render receives an arrow function and it can return anything we want. So I want to return an input tag, and here I can simply destructure the receiving as the field. So I'm receiving the field, and here for the input, we can destructure this field. Oops. And after that, let's have the autocomplete of off. And also for the type of this, because we can have submit or button, we can receive this type from the input type. And also let's have the class name of this dynamic class name that we created. So let's use this dynamic class name and let's format the document again. And this is it. So what we created in this file, let's have a quick overview of it and continue. So we created the input field, and here we have imported the control and controller, and then we have these props. So for the input field, we can receive the control and the label and input name and input type and the error. And this is it. So after that, we have this function, which is render top row. So if we have error, we render the error in the top. Else, if we have the label, we render the label. Else, we return null. Then we have these dynamic classes that based on the error, we will render the class of this controller. This is in the input that is here. Then we have this division, then we render the top row, then we have this controller. Now everything is ready and our input field component is ready. So let's format the document and close it. And now we can implement the next functionality, which is the register page. So let's do it. Let's go to the SRC and pages, and also let's go to the public and register page. This is it. And here, first, let's import all of the components we want. So we need to import a star as YOP from the YOP, and also we need to import use form from the React hook form, and also we need the iRegister DTO from the types that we created previously, and also we need the input field that we just created, and also we need the YOP resolver and the use auth, and also the button, and we need the toast component from the React hot toast, and also let's have the user state from the React, and we need the link from the React router DOM, and also we need the path of public from the routes slash path. This is it. So we have the register page, and now we can use all of the components that we are imported. So here, first I create an state for the loading, and I use loading as set loading equal to a user state with the type of boolean and the initial value of false. That's it. And after that, I will destructure the register from the use auth hook, and this is it. Then we need to create a schema for the object of the data that we want to use in the React hook form. So let's create it. We need to create a new variable named of const of register schema, which equals to the yop dot object. So we are importing a star as yop from the yop package, and we use it like this. So we use the yop dot object, and we can create a shape for it here. So this shape is a function, and it will receive an object here. So let's work on this object for now and see what the items do we need to use it here. And in this object, which is belongs to the shape, we can define the shape of it. So let's have some keys and some rules for it. For example, the first one is the first name. So we want to have a first name, and I want it to be yop.string, and also I need it to be the required. And for the message of the validation, we can use first name is required. After the first name, I want to have another key with the last name, and for the last name, also I want to use the yop.string and also the required, and you can use any message for the validation you want. For example, we can say the last name is required is the message for the required validation. After last name, let's have the username, and again we use the yop.string required with the username is required. That's it. And after that, I want to have an email. So for the email, again, I use the yop.string, and after that, I use the .required, and I use the email is required message, and also I can use .email. So it will check that it is a valid email structure or not. And for the message of it, I can use input text must be a valid email. This is it. And after the email, I want to have a password. So for the password, I want to use the yop.string required with the message of password is required, and also I want to use the minimum, and I will use the minimum of 8, and for the message of this minimum I can use password must be at least 8 characters, and after that I can have the address with the yop.string and required of address is required error message, and this is it. So you can see that it is really too easy to create a schema for the React hook form using this yop, and we will use the yop, and also we use the yop resolver that you can see it. So let's continue. So we created this register schema. Now I want to use it in the React hook form. So let's see how we can use it inside of a React hook form easily. So in order to use the React hook form, we can simply destructure some of its items. So I want to destructure the control and also the handle submit and the form state. And I will destructure this form state as the errors. And also I want to have the reset. And all of these are destructuring from the use form hook that we imported it here from the React hook form. This is it. So for this hook use form, because we are using TypeScript, we can simply pass this iRegister DTO to it. So we say that the type of this form is coming from the iRegister DTO, and let's continue. Inside of this use form, we can pass an object to it to define everything we want. For example, the first thing is we can use a resolver to implement the validation of the yop. So for the resolver, I will use the yop resolver. I'm importing yop resolver from the @hook form /resolver/yop. And inside this yop resolver, I use register schema that I defined it here. So this is the register schema. I'm using it like this. So after the resolver, we can have the default values for our form, and these values can be an object. So what do we need to have inside of this object? We want to have the first name with initial value of empty string, also the last name and the username, and also the email and the password, and also the address. So let's format the document. So this is how we use the React hook form inside of this register page. We created this schema and we use it like this inside of our form. Let's continue. So after this, let's minimize this register schema and also minimize this and continue. And in order to process the data and send them to the backend, we need to have a function. So let's create it. I create a const of onSubmit register form, which is an async arrow function. So inside of this function, I'm receiving the data with type of I register DTO. You will see that where the data is coming. This is coming from the form that we will implement it soon. So inside of this arrow function, which is an async function, we receive this data, and inside of that, I will use the try catch block because we are using an asynchronous function and we may have some errors or promise.reject. So inside of the try, first let's implement the set loading of true. So first we set the loading state to the true. Then I call the await of the register. So this register is coming from the use auth that we implemented it previously. So inside of this register, you know that we need to send some data to it, like the first name, the last name, and the others. So let's send them. I use the data.first name and also data.last name and data.username and data.email and data.password and data.address, and I send all of them to this register and I'm awaiting for it, and after it I simply call the set loading of false. This is it, and everything will be handled inside of this register. But what if we have any type of error? So inside of the error, we will go to the catch block and we receive this error. But you can see that this error has the type of unknown, and this is not good. So let's define a type for it. And inside of this catch block, let's move the page to the top. So inside of the catch block, I will first use the set loading of false. So I set the loading state to the false. And after that, I will use the const of error equals to our error that we are receiving as a new type. So I want to have a new type for it with the data with type of string and also a status with type of number. This is it. So after that, I want to destructure some all of them from the ER. So I say that destructuring the status and also the data from the ER that we created it just now. And after that, I will check that if the status equals to 400 or the status equals to 409, I simply call a toast.error with this data. Else, if the status is not this, I simply say the toast.error with this value of an error occurred, please contact the admin. So this is the onSubmit register form functionality that we need to use. So let's use the format document and minimize this and continue. The next item is this return section. So let's delete this register DTO. Now we have this division. So in the first step, let's create another division here for the left side, and also let's copy paste it and have another for the right side and comment them. So I want to have two different sections inside of this division of the register page. So for the main division, let's have the class name of page template 1. So I have the page template 1 for the register page, and on the left side I want to have a beautiful structure, but this structure isn't important for us. So I simply copy paste it from the GitHub repo, and also you can copy it from the GitHub repo. This left side is not really important, so let's copy it. And this is it. So this is a simple division with some class names and also some text. So let's use the format document, and this is the register page. So let's check it until now in the front end. So this is it. Let's refresh the page to be sure about everything. And if I go to the register, so you can see that this is the structure that we are implementing, and this is coming from the page template and also from the left side. But this left side is not really important. You can simply copy paste it, and the right side is the important thing for us. So let's continue and let's minimize this left side. So this was for the left side, and let's continue on the right side. And on the right side, let's create a form tag. This is it. So for this form, I want to use the onSubmit, and inside of this onSubmit, I want to use the handle submit that is coming from the React hook form, and this handle submit will receive the onSubmit register form. So let's speak about it quickly. So what is this? When you are using the React hook form, let me show you again. We have this handle submit that with the structure from the use form, and this handle submit will receive another function. So we created this onSubmit register form that will receive this data with type of I registered DTO. And inside of this form, we say that on the submit, you can handle the submit with this. So this will be called on the submit. This is it. Let's continue. And after this, I want to have some class names for this form, like flex of 1, and also minimum height of 600 pixel and height of 80%, and also BG of this color, and also a flex and flex of column, and justify of center, and align items of center, and rounded of 2x large. So this is for the form. Let's format document to see it better. Well, this is it. So we have this form tag with onSubmit and class name. Then let's have an h1 tag with the text of register, and also let's have some class name to be more beautiful. For example, we can use text of 4x large and font of bold, and also margin bottom of 2 and text of this color. So the first thing is this register, and after this register h1, we can have some different input fields. So let's create all of them. The first one is an input field. So you saw that. Let's go to the input field quickly. You can see that we can receive control, label, input name, input type, and error. So we can use these types and this prop. So for the first input, I use the control equals to control. This control is coming from, let me show you, we are destructuring it from this React hook for use form hook, and it will allows us to add some controllers to this form. This is it. So we use the control of control, and for the label of it, we use the first name. For the input name, we use the first name, and for the error, we use errors.firstname if exists dot message. That's it. So you can see that it is very too easy. So after it, let's have another input field again with the control and label and input name and error. So the control again is control, the next label is last name, and the input name is last name, and also for the error we use errors.lastname.message. After it, let's have another input. So control is the control, and for the label we use username, for the input name we use the username, and also for the error you can see that using error.username message. After that, let's have another input, and we'll use control for this control prop, and for the label of it we use email, and for the input name we use email, and for the error we use error.email.message. And after that, let's have another input field, and we use the control of the control, and also for the label we use the password, and also we use the input name of password and the input type of password, and for the error we use error.password.message. So you can see that I'm using the input type here with type of password, but in the previous we didn't have it. Why? Because here in the input type we have the default value of text, and this input type is optional. So this is it, and this is the password. And after that, let's have another one. So after the password, what do we have here? You can see that we have the address. So let's have the next one with the control of control. For the label, we use the address. For the input name, we use the address. For the error, we use address.message if the error exists. So this is it. Let's use the format document. So these are the inputs that we need to use. So let's continue, and after this input, we need to have some buttons. So let's create another division here. And for this division, I want to have some class names like padding x of 4, and also margin top of 2 and margin bottom of 6, and also width of, let me show you, this is the 75%, and after that we can have the flex with gap of 2. I want to have an h1, and for the text of it, we say already have an account. So if you have an account already, let's format the document. It's a better idea. And after this h1, I want to have a link component. So for the link, we want to have a two prop. So I will use the path of public dot login. So this is the destination of this link. And also let's have some class name for it to be beautiful, like the text of this color and also the border of this color. And I created these classes before this tutorial, so it would not take a long of time from us. And you can simply copy paste all of these from my GitHub. So on hover, I want to have this shadow, and also I want to have padding x of 3 and rounded off to x large, and also the duration of 200. So this is it, and for the text of it, we can use the login. So this is a link inside of this division. And let's have an enter here. So after this division, we can have some buttons. So let's create another division for it here. And for this division, we can have some class names like flex, and also justify of center, and alignment terms of center, and gap of 4, and margin top of 6. And instead of that, I want to have two buttons. So let's create them. For the first one, I want to have the variant of secondary and the type of button, and also the label of reset. And on click, I will call the reset. So where is this reset coming? This reset is coming from the React hook form that we destructured it from the use form hook of React hook form. And this is the first button. After that, I want to have another button with variant of primary and the type of submit. So this type is important because this button is going to submit our form. And for the label of it, we use the register, and on click, I pass an empty function to it because I don't want it to invoke anything on the on-call, and the submit is enough for us. And for the loading of it, I will pass the loading, which is coming from this loading state. So I think everything is okay, and we implemented these two buttons in the last section. So let's format the document, and this is it. So I think the register page is completed. Let's have a quick overview of it and continue. So first we imported everything, then we created the loading state, and also we destructured the register from the use auth. And this register, you can see that this register is receiving something, and it will return a promise. And if we go to the authentication auth context and we go to the register, so this is the final register that will be called. We will call the backend with accessing the standard post with the register URL and these values, and in the success of it, we will navigate our user to the path after register that we created previously. So let's close this and auth types and close input fields, and this is it. So after this, we created a schema for the object of our form, and we have first name, last name, and the others. Then we created a use form, and we use this use form hook to create a new form instance for our component. And we destructure these, and we pass the resolver to it, and we pass the default value to them. Then we have this on submit register form, and we have a try catch, and on the try and on the catch we handle every scenarios that may happen. Then we have this page template one division here, and we have a left side and the right side. The left side is not important, but on the right side we have a form with an h1 with some input fields, and also another button for the login, and two buttons for submitting and resetting. So let's see the result until now. And on the home page, so if I click on the register, well, this is, you can see that this is the left side and this is the right side, and we implemented it. So what will be happen if I click on the, for example, let's write something, and let's press reset, everything would be deleted. That's so good. Let's add something and something. Let's press register. Well, you can see that we have errors. So if I delete everything, so you can see that we have validation. And also if I use something, it says that password must be at least 8 characters, and for the email, it must be a valid email. So we will test the register functionalities later. Now let's go and implement the login page and continue. Then we will test all of them together. So let's close the register page, and let's close everything. Go to the src pages public. So we implemented the register. That's okay. Now let's go to the login page, and let's minimize this. First, let's import everything we want. So we need to import the star as YAP from the YAP, and also we need use form hook and I login DTO and input field. and again Yap resolver and use auth and the button and also the toast and use state and also the link and path of public. You can say that it is like the register, and also you can simply copy paste these lines from the GitHub. It's not a problem. You can simply watch me and learn what is these lines of code are going to do. So this is all of the import components that we need. So let's continue, and then we have this login page. In first step, let's create a new state for it. So const of the loading and set loading equals to a new user state with type of boolean and the default value of false. Then I will destructure the login from the use auth. So you can see that this time I'm using the login method, and that's it. So let's scroll a little and continue. After this, we need to again create a new schema. So let's create it. And I say the const of login schema. Again, like the register, it is yap.object.shape. And this shape can accept an object, and this object would be the schema for our validation. So let's implement it. It is easier than the register. We just need the username, and for the username we use the yap.string.required, and for the message of it we say the username is required, and also let's have the password with yap.string.required, and we use password is required message for it. And also we can use a minimum length of 8 characters, and also we can use password must be at least 8 characters. That's it. So let's format the document. So you can see that the login schema is easier. Let's have a quick overview of register schema. So there we have first name, last name, username, email, password, address. But here we just have the username and the password, and it is easier. So let's continue, and again let's create our use form. So again, let's destructure some of them. So I want to destructure the control and the handle submit and the form state. And I will destructure again the form state to the errors. I just need the errors of it. And also we can have the reset. So all of them are destructuring from the use form. And for this use form, we can use the type of ilogin DTO because we are using TypeScript. And it will accept an object for its shape. So inside of this object, we can use the resolver with Yap resolver, and we will pass the login schema to this resolver. And also we can have some default values for it, which can be an object. And inside this object, we just need to have the username with an empty string default value, and also a password with, again, empty string. This is it. Now let's format the document and minimize this, and also minimize this schema and continue. So again, we need to have an handle submit. So it would be a const of onSubmit login form, which is an async arrow function. And this time for this async, we will receive the data with type of iLogin DTO. So that was the iRegister, and this time in login page, we are receiving the iLogin DTO. So let's continue, and as always, because we are working with an async method, we use the try-catch block. It's a good idea to use try-catch block when we are working with an asynchronous function. And first we set the loading to the true to show the spinner to the user, and then we use the await of the login that we are structuring from the use auth. And for this login, what we need to pass, we need the username and the password. So let's send the data that username and also send the data that password to it. And because we are awaiting after finishing of it successfully, we can use set loading of false. That's it. And on the catch block, we are receiving this error, and you can see the type of it is unknown. So first, let's set the loading to the false, and after that, because the type of error is unknown, we need to have a type for it. So let's have a new variable with name of er, which equals to error as this new type. And we can say that for this error, I want to have a data with type of string, and also a status with type of number. And then I will check that. I will destructure the status from it, and then I will check that if the status equals to 4 or 1, I will send a toast.error to the client, and I say that invalid username or password, else I will simply toast.error, and error occurred, please contact the admin. So let's format the document and minimize this onSubmit login and continue. So after this onSubmit login form, we can implement this division. Let's have a quick look at the register page, so you can see that we are working exactly like this register, and then we have this division with class name of template1. Then we have this left side and the right side. So let's copy this class name from here because we are going to use it. So inside of the login page, for this division, I want to have this, and let's delete this, and let's copy these two because I want to again have these comments here and this. So let's close it. We don't need it anymore, and use formatted document. So in the final return, we are using again a division with class name of page template 1, and I want to have a left section and a right section. So again, I will copy the left because it's not important for us, it's just for the showing. So let's copy it here, and you can simply copy it from the GitHub repo, and you can find the link of it in the video description. So this is for the left side. And then we have the right side. And for the right side, again, we want to have a form tag. So for this form, I want to have an onSubmit. And also I want to have some class names. This is it. So for the onSubmit, we can use the handle submit. And we can pass the onSubmit login form to it. So on this form on the submit, we'll call this handle submit, and it will pass the data to this onSubmit login form that you saw. So then let's implement the class names of it. And I use flex of 1, and also minimum height of 600 pixel, and height of 80%, and also BG of this color. And also I use the flex with flex of column and justify of center and align items of center, and also rounded of right of 2x large. This is it. So after this, let's create an h1 with the text of login, and also let's have some class name for this h1, like text of 4x large and font of bold, and also margin bottom of 2 and text of this purple color. So let's use the format document, and inside of this form, for now I just have this h1, and after that I want to have some inputs. So let's create them. The first one would be an input field with control of control, and for the label of it we use username, and for the input name I use username, and for the error we check if the error that username exists, we use the message of it. And we have just the username and the password. So for the password I can have another input field, and I use the control of control, and also for the label I use this password. For the input name it is password, this input name is exactly, let me show you in React Hook form, it's exactly the name of this password. And for the input type we use the password, and for the errors we use errors.password.message. So let's format the document. Now we have the two input fields. Let's scroll a little and continue and create the next sections. And after these two inputs, let's create another division and have some class names for it, like padding x of 4, and also margin top of 2, and margin bottom of 6, and width of 75%, and also flex with gap of 2. And instead of that, I want to have an h1 first. So let's have it here, and h1, and I will type don't have an icon. And after that, I want to have a link component. For this link, we can have a toProp, and also we can have some class names. So for the two, we can use the path of public, and we want to use the register, and then let's have some class names for it, like the text of this color, and also the border, and border of again this purple color. And on hover, I want to have this shadow, and after this, let's have a padding x of 3 and rounded off to x large, and also duration of 200. This is it. And inside of that, I want to use the register. So this would be linked to the register. Let's format the document, and this is it. And after this division, I want to have some buttons. So let's create another division here, and we can use some class name for it, like flex and justify of center and items of center, and also gap of 4 and margin top of 6. And inside of that, I want to have some buttons. So let's create them. The first one would be a button with variant of secondary, and the type of button And also for the label, we use reset. And on click, I will call the reset. And this reset is coming from, let me show you, it is the instruction from our use form hook. So it will call the reset. And after that, let's have another button with variant of primary. And for the type of it, this time we use submit. And for the label, we use login. And on click, we pass just an empty function to it. We don't want it to do anything on the click. And for the loading of it, we use the loading state. So let's use the format document, and this was the final division of the login page. And then we have the form tag and division, and we export the file login page. So let's have a quick overview of it, and it is finished. So first we import everything we want, then we have this loading state, and we have the the login, that is the instruction from use auth. Then we created a schema for the username and the password of our page. Then we use that schema in this resolvers for the React hook form, and then we use this default value as an empty string. Then we have this onSubmit login form, and on the success we will set the loading just to the false, but on the error we send some toast error to the client. Then we have the return division section. We have a left side that I copy it, and you can simply copy it from the GitHub. And then we have the right side, we have a form with some inputs, and H1 with some buttons. So let's see all of them and see what we have in the login page. So let's go back to the home and refresh. So this is our website, and now we are on the home page, so you can see that it's a beautiful page. So we have this register, and also we implemented this login, so you can see that now we have the register and the login. Let's test the register and the login, and for that we need to start our backend project. So let's start it and continue. So I started the backend project, and you can see the Swagger. So if you remember, we had this auth and the logs and the message and the test controller. So let's see the /API/auth/users, and let's use the execute and copy this and open it in a new tab. So we have these users like user 6, user 2, and the others. First, let's check the register method, and I will open the terminal, and I will go to the network tab to show you that what is going on. So first, let's say this is the user. This is just a simple test, or let's say the user N1 and the user L1, and this is just a simple test, or you can use user F name or user L name. And for the username, we say user, and this is it. So let's copy this. For the email, we say user@gmail.com. For the password, you can simply copy this user 3 times. So 1, 2, 3. And for the address, you can use anything. For example, this, it's not important. And let's call the register and see the result. So you can see that the register was successful. Please log in. So we automatically redirected to the /login. And if we check the network, you can see that we have the register, and the request URL was /API/auth/register, and the response was user created successfully. That's so good. And this is the payload that we sent to the backend, and this is it. Now let's log in with this user. So let's copy this username, which was user, and use its password, which is again 3 times of it. And let's use the login and see the result. Well, login was successful, and we automatically, you can see that, redirected to the /dashboard. That's so good, and it means that the register and the login is working. So let's check the login. So we send the password and the username to the backend, and if we see the response, you can see that in the response we are receiving new object, and we have a new token, which is this, and we have the user info with ID, username, last name, and the others, and the role of it is user. That's so good. So now you can see that everything is okay, and we implemented the /dashboard. This is the sidebar, this is the header, and we can use this dashboard. This dashboard will go to the home page of the dashboard. So if I go to the home page, I cannot see the dashboard, but if I press this dashboard button, you can see that I'm going to /dashboard. And if I use let's go to the dashboard. If I use the logout, I will be redirected automatically to the home page. So let's log in again using this. And this time, let's check the auth loading and the auth and the username and the user roles. Now you can see that we don't have anything. The auth is closed red log. So let's log in, and login was successful. We redirected to the slash dashboard. You can see that now the auth is a green open and unlocked icon, and my username is this, and my role is this. And now you can see that I'm here. So let's log out and test one of the other usernames. For example, owner, for example, this username Ahmad is me. So let's log in, and if I use its password and login, so you can see that again I'm here, but this time username is Mahmoud and user role is owner. Let's check an admin. For example, this user 7 is admin. Let's log out and log in again. Well, this time you can see that I'm here and my username is user 7 and user role is admin. And let's have a manager like this. User 9, for example, is manager. So let's log out and log in again. Username, password. So login was successful, and you can see that this is user 9 and the user role is manager. So we implemented the user register page and the user login page, and then we can implement the other pages.